Bill, come on.
They brought out 6.
I haven't seen them. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's like this. We can find out. I have not.
Michael, how are you? Give me a little roll up.
Joe?
Excuse me. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, I didn't think so. Well, good afternoon. Hopefully didn't keep you waiting too long. Let me get the help out. I'm announcing today that FBI agents assigned to the New York field office have at this point arrested 14 individuals who are members or associates of the New York chapter of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. The investigation has been conducted with the assistance of the New York State Police investigators, and we were assisted today by a number of agencies as we came to this final stage of making arrests and searches. Today we had with us members of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tax, and Firearms, and obviously the New York City Police Department. We have at least 4 more individuals that are currently being sought for a variety of violations. Now, in addition to the arrests, we've had approximately 28 searches of various metropolitan New York addresses. Those searches are ongoing at this time or have been completed. Included in the areas that were being arrested, or the addresses that were being arrested, was 77 East 3rd Street in Manhattan, and that's also the residence and the location of Sandy Alexander, who was arrested at that location along with the others, and he's generally recognized as the national president of the Hells Angels. There's some dispute as to how much control he has on the West Coast, but generally he's considered the national president, and he's also the president of the local New York City chapter. You should know that the arrests are being made as a part of a nationwide coordinated operation, and we have at least 15 FBI officers involved throughout the country. For example, we have offices in Albany, in Boston, Charlotte, Cleveland, Columbia, New Haven, Newark, New York, New Orleans, Omaha, Phoenix, Richmond, Sacramento, San Diego, and San Francisco. So we've got a lot of people out on the street from a lot of agencies today affecting these operations. At least 133 members or associates are charged nationwide. They've been charged with a number of violations to include the Controlled Substances Act, federal firearms violations, etc. As of the start of this conference, at least 96 are in custody of the 133. Today's arrests throughout the country is actually a start. It's a start of the overt part of this investigation, which has been an ongoing thing for at least 3 years. It commenced in Baltimore about 3 years ago and utilized the code name of Rough Rider. We used perhaps two of our most valuable techniques in conducting this investigation. That's the utilization of the undercover operator and the undercover operation and both physical and electronic surveillance. It was made extensive use of. The undercover agent we know traveled to at least 13 different chapters of the Hells Angels, a number of states, at least 7 different states, where he observed, for instance, Uzi machine guns, bazookas, light anti-tank weapons, weapons storage facilities, distribution of drugs, drug paraphernalia, stolen property, as well as electronic surveillance being conducted by the Hells Angels themselves. He was privy to, through his operations, the manufacturing of drugs, contract murders, extortion, bribery, assault, and harboring of fugitives. We think that this operation has given law enforcement a real look into the inner workings of this organization, the Hells Angels, and I think we would all agree that they are the most sophisticated and the largest of the major 4 motorcycle gangs, to include the Banditos, the Outlaws, and the Pagans. The Hells Angels, we call them the largest. They have 64 different chapters. They're located in at least 13 different countries throughout the world. We have recovered in our area 1 Uzi machine gun. There's been other weapons. There's been certain narcotics. It's all being sorted out yet. The search warrants, say, are still not completed. Around the country, there's been other weapons recovered, to include at least 1 hand grenade. Most of you are aware that a Connecticut state trooper was shot in the leg twice as he made an entry in Connecticut along with our agents. My last information is that he is doing okay. We have determined that, for example, that these gangs have formed liaison, or at least relationships, with other traditional organized crime families. I want to introduce to you, I mentioned earlier that the investigation, at least in our area, has been conducted by the New York FBI and greatly assisted by New York State investigators. We have with us today a man that I don't have to introduce to any of you, but I will, United States Attorney Rudy Giuliani, and we have several members of the assisting agencies that were helping us today, and of course a number of people from my own office. Rudy?
Thank you very much. This was indeed a very significant law enforcement operation for the FBI, for the state police, for the Drug Enforcement Administration, and for the New York City Police Department. The FBI coordinated a long investigation here nationwide that has resulted in very substantial charges being brought here in New York and all throughout the United States, and it is again another indication of the absolutely superb work, in particular of the New York office of the FBI. 13 members and associates of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club of New York have been named in a complaint that is now filed in federal court, charging them with a conspiracy to distribute over $2 million in drugs. An additional 3 others will be named very, very shortly. The complaint charges that from 1982 through 1985, these defendants conspired to sell and actually sold large amounts of drugs, including cocaine, methamphetamine, marijuana, quaaludes, PCP. The affidavit that has been filed in support of the complaint, signed and sworn to by Special Agent Mark Young, alleges that the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club is a racketeer-influenced corrupt organization, and that since 1982 it's been under intense investigation by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and that evidence of dealings with numerous Hells Angels officers and associates has been uncovered during the course of this investigation. During the investigation, the agents gathered evidence concerning the distribution of drugs, approximately 16 pounds of methamphetamines, approximately 6 pounds of cocaine, 14 pounds of marijuana, and amounts of hash, PCP, and LSD, were all delivered, transferred, or sold during the course of the investigation. And as was explained, the agents also observed the possession of a number of weapons, including Uzi submachine guns, and overheard conversations involving contract murders, extortion, bribery, assault, and the harboring of fugitives. Sandy Fraser Alexander is alleged to be the principal defendant, operating out of 77 East 3rd Street in Manhattan. The other defendants are all involved as either sources of drugs or people who were associated in delivering or assisting in the delivery of drugs during the course of the crimes alleged in the complaint. Alexander is alleged in the complaint to have explained that over and above the individual profits that are made from the sale of drugs by the Hells Angels, the New York chapter got 10% of the proceeds from all sales, and that went into their treasury. These defendants made a number of sales to undercover agents, the most significant of which that are outlined in the complaint include a sale of 1/8 of a pound of cocaine on November 30, 1984 to an FBI undercover agent by defendants Alexander and Gerald Vance Butendorf. Another sale on April 3, 1985 at 25 Bleecker Street of 1 kilogram of cocaine and 1 pound of marijuana to an FBI undercover agent for $57,500. Two of the individuals that are alleged to be sources of these drugs, James Harwood, who's named in the complaint, and Charles Zito, have also been charged. Zito is the owner of Big Joe's Tattoo Parlor, 198 West 1st Street in Mount Vernon, New York, which is also alleged in the complaint to be a site where drugs were distributed and sold. Once again, I can't say enough about the outstanding work of the FBI in pulling together this investigation and of the other law enforcement agencies. This is a very, very dangerous group, and they have done just a superb job.
You talked about links to other organized crime families. What are you speaking about specifically?
I don't think I want to elaborate too much, but in the distribution of drugs, principally.
Is it now per se illegal to be a member of Hell's Angels? Because you have described it as a continuing criminal enterprise.
Let me see if I can clear that up. The complaint that's been filed in federal court charges these defendants with conspiracy to distribute huge amounts of drugs. The affidavit in support of the complaint, signed by the FBI agent, alleges that the Hells Angels is a racketeer influence corrupt organization. A charge like that has not yet been filed. It's an allegation that's contained in a complaint. You can assume that we will investigate that, and during the presentation of this case to the grand jury, that'll be one of the things that the grand jury will consider.
Similar to La Cosa Nostra, in the sense that by being a member of La Cosa Nostra, with the recent mob roundups, it is now illegal to be a member of the mafia. Correct? Incorrect?
Well, membership in any of these organizations, whichever organization we talk about, is not per se illegal. We have to, in order to, first we have to have evidence with which we can link you to the organization, and then we have to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the organization is involved in illegal activities, and that's the only way in which somebody could be charged or convicted.
Then it's illegal.
I don't recommend membership in any one of these organizations. But,
it is per se illegal to be a member.
no, I wouldn't put it that way, Denny.
No.
Gentlemen, is it safe to say at this point that with these coordinated raids that you've conducted across the country, that you feel you've made a dent in what is becoming another organized crime family?
I think that's a safe statement, yes.
Effectively,
We made a sizable dent, yes.
And this is a budding mafia, in effect?
Well, I think the activities of the Hells Angels, as well as some of the other gangs, this is not exactly a new budding organization. They've, in all seriousness, they've been around for a number of years. They're getting a much-deserved attention at this point.
What does this raid
How role do
do?
they play in drug traffic nationally? The four gangs certainly. I mean, how do they play a sizable role in drug traffic?
Yes, they do, and particularly in the controlled substances area, as opposed to cocaine and heroin, although they're involved in that too. But meth, LSD, that sort of thing, very much involved.
Did the undercover agent operate as a biker or a buyer of drugs? Did he become a Hells Angel?
He did not become a member per se, but active, yes. I don't think I want to describe his role yet. It probably will evolve to some degree during the
How do you
as
become
we
a-
proceed, but at this
Go on
point, no.
runs with them as a prospect?
He visited chapters, he observed, he listened, he heard, and in some instances participated.
How do you
As
become
what?
a member?
As what?
As a biker? Was he a biker?
Well, I think you can say that he participated. It's alleged in the complaints that he participated as a purchaser of various drugs, for example.
What role in distribution of drugs in the country would you say the Angels play compared to other organized crime groups? How big a role do they play? What did you discover about their financial worth? Is 10% of what do they get in New York?
The amount, if you add up the amounts alleged so far in the complaint, just in New York, and just the amounts that involve the undercover distributions, it's in excess of $2 million.
Mr. Laster, could you elaborate a bit on the murders, the murders that you may have thwarted or whatever, discussions that were overheard about planned murders? Could you elaborate a bit?
Not at this point. Sorry.
Were there murders discussed? I mean, what did they discuss in the way of murders?
Let's wait till the grand jury hears it, okay? But yes, discussions were heard by the undercover agent, and it's believed that possibly as much as 5 homicides may have been controlled as a result.
But the
What
basis
does
for almost all these...
today's raid do in effect to
Wait,
these
wait a minute.
figures? Were they
Oh,
well-known
excuse me.
public figures, or were they people who they dealt with who were not well-known public figures who they had as targets?
I think we better stop with this, but I'm not aware of any public figures in the sense that I believe you are asking.
The basis for these arrests all over the country is...
Can you described it briefly, can you describe what happened in Bridgeport this morning once again for us? We've got some...
I don't have the specific details. You'll have to get them up there, but my understanding is this, as in the arrest team, their presence was announced, they're coming in, and I think fire, an automatic weapon perhaps, but anyway, a weapon was fired from within through the door, and the trooper was struck through the door.
But you're saying that...
In effect, what does today's raid do to the Angels Club nationwide? Does it not get, I mean, what kind of damage have you done to the organization?
I think that we're simply going to have to wait. There isn't any question about what they've been dealt a damaging blow, but time will tell what it's done to the overall organization.
So Lester, when you talk about the money, when you clarify it, you say $2 million. Is that $2 million that they were getting in New York, or $2 million that they were getting as their 10% of everything around the country?
That was the price of the drugs that were sold.
In New York City.
Right. That's the amount of money. That's the amount of money that it cost.
Of the
That's
drugs
right.
sold to your agent.
Of the one, and only of the ones that only of the transactions alleged in the complaint. What you have to understand is that there's a complaint against these defendants. Those are the specific charges. They all involve drugs. And then, also filed in court is a very long affidavit signed by Special Agent Young, which describes in much greater detail all of the evidence that was uncovered.
5 homicides in New York City or throughout the country?
Throughout the country. I think it's throughout the country, not in New York City. By the way, I think we'll have copies of that affidavit, hopefully for you as you go out.
It'll take about 3 days to read.
Who were they
Did you
bugging?
rearrest any of the West Coast members who had gotten off after your previous set of arrests out there about 4 years ago?
I don't have exact names from the West Coast. Could you hear the question, Tom? Anyone?
Was Sonny
Story?
Barger charged?
Were some of these rearrested from the West Coast that were arrested previously and released?
We don't know.
Okay.
Are you
Well,
out
there
to
you go.
bust Hell's Angels, dissipated, no longer on the face of the earth? Is that your intention?
Well, I think that these arrests today demonstrate that the FBI can devote attention both to the traditional organized crime groups and what is sometimes described as the new or emerging groups. Very often, I think over the last couple of months, the question has been asked, what's going to happen if there's a certain amount of removal of power in terms of the mafia and some of the traditional groups, and other groups might come along and take their place. Well, I think this demonstrates that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies have devoted a tremendous amount of effort to going after and gathering evidence on these groups.
But what about answering my question, though? Are you out to bust them completely?
Well, certainly, law enforcement is out to bust racketeer-influenced corrupt organizations.
All right.
But we can't just generally say that a particular organization is per se illegal, or we have to tie that to specific allegations and then proof of their being involved in a racketeer-influenced corrupt organization. We've charged that as to these defendants, and as to them, obviously, we want to press our charges.
Family in New York City? 5 families? Are they down to 6 families?
I wouldn't describe it that way, no.
Just to make this perfect...
there's no further indication beyond that. That these are people who were wanted, and that they were assisting and helping these people to escape or avoid detection.
What exactly is Sonny Alexander charged with?
The RICO statute, let's say on the West Coast, I think in Cleveland, and we hear that the Hells Angels mentioned again now. And some of those cases have been unsuccessful, largely. They mentioned that there was How is this different? Or is it different at all? Is it just another try of the same thing?
I don't think we really can characterize or compare cases. This was a very long investigation, a very extensive one. Now we're going to have to proceed to try these people, so I don't think we can characterize it or compare it to any particular past case.
What exactly was Alexander charged with?
Alexander is charged with violating the federal narcotics laws in that he is alleged to have conspired to sell and to have sold cocaine, methamphetamines, PCP, and marijuana in particular.
Did he sell it to the undercover agent?
He is alleged to have been one of those who sold on at least 2 occasions to the undercover agent.
Who were they lugging
Hand to hand.
electronically? What was their electronic surveillance?
And who were they surveying?
What was seized? What was seized?
Was it
specifically
you
at
that they were trying to,
Personally?
no, who were they trying? The
We?
FBI, or did they suspect that you were?
I suspect that they suspected we were investigating them, yes, right. No, I'm sorry, but I can't elaborate further on that, but
Counter surveillance, in other words?
counter surveillance involving law enforcement themselves,
Didn't work too well.
and we'll stop.
Was Agent Young ever in danger?
Mr.
Was Agent Young ever in danger of being discovered?
Agent Young is not the undercover agent.
I thought that was the gentleman.
He's the agent who filed the affidavit.
Right.
He's the one of the agents who supervised the
Was the
investigation.
undercover agent ever put in a position of imminent danger?
I think that any undercover agent that involves himself with a criminal group who's very capable of violence, as we know these people are, certainly was in danger anytime he stepped forth on the street.
I think that from a standpoint,
Street?
Now, what'd you get?
What was taken from the apartment after the search?
That goes to, obviously, the evidence in the matter, and at this point, we're going to have to decline to be specific about it. We don't really know for sure yet.
We're talking about weapons or drugs?
Yes, as I said, weapons have been recovered.
What kind?
Certain amount of drugs, you know,
What kind of weapons?
at least one Uzi machine gun.
From 3rd
Mr.
Street?
Laster, you've talked about anti-tank weapons and Uzi submachine guns. What do you speculate they were going to use those for? Just against a bust like this, or what?
It would be speculation, but as defense weapons, or possibly to utilize them in the commission of a robbery, for example, an armored truck.
Did
Not
they
the
gather
recent
those
one
weapons
by any
once they knew
chance?
the FBI was investigating, or
I beg your pardon?
did these weapons, you started seeing them once they knew the FBI was investigating, or what?
Well, I'm not sure at this point they knew the FBI was investigating when we observed them, or today when we recovered them in the process of, serving arrest warrants.
Did the undercover agent ride with the Angels from chapter to chapter, or did he go individually?
Wear the helmets and the motorcycle jacket and get on bikes and all that stuff?
I'm going to have to forego
Did he
elaboration
apply
at this
for
point,
membership as a prospect?
What about the timing involved in today's raid? Mr. Laster, what about the timing involved in today's raid? Why today, after
You need to go overt, where you need to, you for instance, in the conduct or the utilization of an undercover operation, there's just a lot of things you can't do as long as that's an ongoing thing. So you finally reach a time where you need to go open with the investigation, bring your man out, and proceed. And that's exactly why we're doing it today. To say that today has significance over yesterday or last week, no particular significance.
Did you buy the guy a bike, a motorcycle, your agent?
I'm not going to comment on what we did with him at this
Also,
point.
how do you
Yeah.
become a member?
Albany.
What does the overt part of the investigation consist of? What does happen now?
The thing you see happening today, for example, arrests, searches, looking at the evidence and going where it will take us.
Can you tell us what role
Were there
this
any
gentleman
women?
Herbert
in that club
Yes,
who were arrested?
yes.
How do you become a member of the Hells Angels? Fill out an affidavit or what? How do you become a member?
I have, I think I'll just skip that, I could think of some humorous things, but they mean nothing. I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
Is it possible that some members of the Hells Angels are not involved in illegal activity? You said these people were and are members, but does that mean that the organization...
I don't think we really can comment on that. The charges are charges only against the individuals that are named in the charges, no one else. So
As belonging to a continuing criminal enterprise.
That's
Which
correct.
means if you belong to that, it's illegal.
no, Denny, it doesn't mean that. You have to belong to it knowing.
You must remember, in RICO cases, I mean, state legislatures, for instance, have been declared a criminal enterprise for purposes of the statute. And
Role in the defense of this case and the prosecution of this case, and that's something we're going to have to leave for a jury to decide.
Now, some of those people have other jobs. Some are stunt people, movie stunt people. Some have been known to be bodyguards for entertainment figures. Is there any indication that these drugs were delivered to entertainment figures?
I really can't answer that at this point. We can't go beyond what's been charged in the complaint and the affidavit, and it contains nothing of that kind in the public record.
Can you identify these individuals for the media so we know who they are, please, from our pictures?
Why don't we do that later? You probably get somebody to do
not
it.
right at this point, but we may have some people who can help
Can you
you.
do-
with that.
These motorcycle members transport.
Clientele for that kind of stuff than there is for, who did they sell to?
In general.
Teenage punks?
I don't know that they restricted their market to any one particular group.
How much money a year are we talking about in drugs?
Well, we're aware of, what, 2 million or
2
so
million,
in this area. And, the investigation was not particularly directed to determining just that.
How many Hells Angels are left? 133 throughout the country? Is that the number?
That's,
How many are left?
I don't know. You got to remember, we're not saying that 133 members were, the members and our associates. So that's a pretty good sized number. Frank, have you got a
Most of them?
figure?
Member of the
One
conspiracy,
them.
but there's no particular allegation about anything that he did.
He's not a member.
I wouldn't
He is
characterize
alleged to be a member, right?
How many agents nationwide involved today in arresting these people? Law enforcement agents?
It would even be almost impossible, but I think we could say it probably exceeded 1,000 at least.
Really?
What about here in New York?
1,000?
Probably over 200 here.
1,000 what?
No, law enforcement personnel,
From all those groups you named, DEA,
and
ATF?
possibly even FBI agents. I haven't counted them up. I don't
Could you run
know.
through all the local metropolitan areas where they had raids today? I don't think it's in here.
Yes, I think so.
It is in there?
Mhm. It's in the press
How many
release,
people are
yes.
members of the Hells Angels across the country?
Do you know?
What were they like? I mean, from your undercover agent? Did he go to those?
I think he was present during some of those meetings, yes, but they were used for a variety of things, to include what their business was, the illegal business. Right?
And their own electronic surveillance, who were they surveilling?
Sometimes themselves, counter surveillance type of thing. No, don't put any particular significance on that, no. Today was selected and we did it, and that's probably about it.
Can you
know?
describe for us how the siege took place this morning? I mean, what did they do? They go in with sledgehammers, or
No,
how'd they do it?
we announced ourselves well, you got to remember, we had several different locations we were approaching. No, in every instance, I think we announced ourselves. We did have to effect forced entrance at some places. Mr. Alexander surrendered himself by climbing down the fire escape.
Why were
Before you leave, I
How
should
did
tell
he
you
do
that
that?
the arraignments will be at 2 o'clock.
Why did he come down the fire escape?
We're searching the adjoining buildings. You see the crouch there, they're in front, down where the 2 white lights are is the right location. Joe. Yeah. Pop the trunk, let me take off. All right, Joe. You want that up?
Thank you.
There's a chop up there.
Right next to the glass window.